Hey there, so today I'm going to be talking about Thor the Dark World. So start off by saying that first half of this review will be spoiler free and then the second half will probably be full of spoilers. But I will do a little mini announcement of spoilers start here. So on to the non-spoiler part. I should probably say to start off with I'm probably slightly biased because I generally love all the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I do readily admit that some are better than others and some do have their problems. For instance, Iron Man 2 is a bit of a letdown compared to some of the others, but I still enjoy it. So yeah, there's kind of no real chance of me disliking this film at all. Thor the Dark World takes place obviously post-Avengers. Loki is locked up in jail on Asgard. Thor's trying to sort out all the problems he caused in all the 9 realms. Meanwhile, Jane Foster, Darcy Lewis and Eric Selvig back on Earth are just trying to get on with lives, but at the same time looking at the connections between worlds. Something happens which pulls all these people back together and Thor has to trust Loki and to go on to a quest to help save Asgard and the whole 9 realms from the evil elves led by Malekith, played by Christopher Eccleston. I really liked how this film not only focused quite a bit on Asgard but also the others of the 9 realms, so you got to see the wider universe. And I really liked how Asgard looks. I think Asgard just looks amazing. I saw the film in 3D IMAX mainly because at the time I was booking tickets, that was the only screenings available, but I did think the 3D-ness and IMAX definitely made Asgard and the other worlds, the sort of other creatures, look really good. The stuff on Earth didn't gain much from being either 3D or in IMAX, but yeah, things on Asgard did look amazing. I think the film generally has a really good balance between action, humour and romance between Thor and Jane Foster. There's a thread of humour running throughout the film and in some moments there is definitely more stronger than others. For instance, when Loki and Thor are back together, that's probably one of my favourite bits because they do act like brothers. Just Thor's trying to do something and Loki keeps going, oh well you're doing it wrong, and he's just like shut up. And I think those moments where you can just, they're brothers and they act like brothers even though they're however many thousand-year-old gods, they still act like brothers. And the same thing whenever Odin or Frigga's involved, that they are a family and they have family issues and things like that kind of make me happy. I liked again how each of the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif have their moment to shine. I thought Christopher Eccleston as Malekith was really good. I love how they have their own language as Dark Elves, because that's one thing that gets me when you have like people from other worlds and they just speak English. Like admittedly Malekith can speak English when he's talking to Thor, but then you could say that's like they all speak so they just understand each other and it's translated to English for the audience. But I do like, yeah, how when it's just him talking to his generals and things like that, it is another language and I really enjoyed that part. Oh, another character I love is Heimdall. He is just a badass. It helps that Idris Elba plays him because he's awesome as well. But I just love him and how he's kind of sneaky in the way that he can't betray the trust of Odin or whoever is king, but at the same time he will do what is right. I also like how much Loki was in the film. I'm not one of the big Loki fangirls. To me, Loki is the villain and he's a good villain, but the film is called Thor and it should be focused on Thor the hero. And I think that was kind of a thought I had before going into it. I was like, oh, I don't know how much Loki's going to be in it because I don't want him to take over because it's Thor's film. But I think they had the right balance. I think generally the great thing about this Marvel Cinematic Universe and the fact that you've got the sequels and you have cameos and there's ones that lead up to the Avengers, so you've got everybody coming together, that it allows for so much character development over so many films. And I love how different characters have progressed since Thor. One of my favourite things about anything, films or books, is the character dynamics. And when a film can do that right and can make characters grow and continue to be interesting even over so many films, I think it's done well. And I like how the people of Earth, so Eric Selvig, Darcy Lewis, Jane Foster, they have a big role to play. It's not just the gods and they're tagging on. They're the ones that figure things out and help. So I really enjoyed Thor the Dark World. I laughed out loud at some moments, which I will go and explain in depth in a minute. I puppeteered up at one point. I thought I was going to cry as well, which is something you don't really think you get from a action superhero blockbuster type thing, but I really did feel choked up at one moment, and I thought it was just really great how it managed to pull those sort of feelings from me when it is supposed to be a sort of light-hearted popcorn action superhero thing. It wasn't too long, nothing really dragged, which is obviously a problem sometimes with these sort of things, but yeah, this one didn't. I enjoyed Thor the Dark World just as much as Thor, if not more, and at the moment, I don't know if it's because I'm a huge fan that I can't think of anything wrong with it, but I do love it. To me, it's got a 5 out of 5 because I really want to go see it again, because there's so many little bits that I definitely think a second viewing will make clearer, and yeah, I just loved it. So yes, Thor the Dark World for me gets 5 out of 5. Yeah, if you love the Marvel Universe or just any comic book action type stuff, you will enjoy Thor the Dark World, and yeah, it will be pretty amazing. Now on to the spoilers. Let's start with the bit that made me tear up. Frigga, okay, she's amazing. I absolutely love her relationship with both her children, both Thor and Loki, but especially Loki. Just their relationship and how she defies Odin's orders of never seeing him again, but she uses her magic to do so. Frigga, she can hold off some evil elves by herself, and it's not until she's outnumbered that things don't go so well. When she died, that I was like, no. And because I was like, this is just going to really hurt both Thor and Loki. In some ways it could only be one of the things that could bring them back together as brothers, but at the same time I really didn't want it to happen. And her funeral, oh, that made me tear up, because it's like a proper Viking funeral. She's on a boat, they push it out to the river, a flaming arrow goes and sets fire to it. And I love the fact that, well, like, the main focus is on her, and then there's a wide shot and you can see more boats behind her, because there's been a great battle on Asgard. So they're not just focusing on their queen, they're focusing on all their fallen soldiers or civilians that have died. And I really liked that, because it proper choked me up, and it made me think, because compared to some other sort of superhero or general action films, there's not necessarily a focus on the people who have died, or there may be like the main character or the main character's love interest that have died, but the everyday person, they don't seem to mention or seem to care that they have died. But okay, it's a sort of throwaway bit, and if you weren't really thinking, it might not register, but I just love that they've got all the other ships full of Asgardian people that have died in this battle, and they are respecting them just the same as they're respecting their queen. And yeah, I got choked up at that bit. Also loved Loki's reaction to finding out his mother had died. Again, Thor and Loki's interactions I loved, when they were stealing the evil elf spaceship thing to get out of Asgard, and their just whole reaction of like, oh, you need to press things gently, and Thor's like, ah, and just their snide comment. Another moment again when they were trying to get out of Asgard, Loki keeps shape-shifting into different characters, which I loved anyway, because that's part of him. He was shape-shifting into different people, making Thor shape-shift into Sif, and then he shapeshifts into Captain America, and it's the most amazing thing ever, because he sounds like Captain America, but the words he's saying, obviously, Loki, it's an extreme contrast to what you think of Captain America, because he's like, I can feel the righteousness and go America, and it's just really funny. Thor's just ignoring him and like, oh, you're such an idiot. And oh, I just really enjoyed that bit as well. I loved when Thor, Loki and Jane got to, I can't remember the name of the world that the Dark Elves are from, but when they get there and they're meeting Malekith and obviously trying to save Jane and stop Malekith at the same time, I thought it was really clever, because you are in the same boat as Jane, because Jane's been sort of kind of asleep in a sort of faint coma thing. So obviously Loki and Thor have set up a plan. Jane doesn't know what it is, we as an audience don't know what it is. So when Loki suddenly stabs Thor and then cuts off his hand, we're all just like, what the hell is going on? And beats up Thor, throws Jane to Malekith, and you're just like, what is happening? And then suddenly Thor goes, Loki now. You realise it was just Loki's magic that made it appear as if Thor had no hand anymore, and then Thor starts killing people. All the way through, both Thor and then Sif and Volstagg and whoever else have been saying, if you betray him, I will kill you, and everyone's thinking, yes, he's going to betray him, that's just how he is. But at the same time, you don't want him to, so that's how it happened. And I was just like, ah! And then Loki was protecting Jane, which I was just really impressed with, and quite surprised by in a way. Yeah, that whole scene I thought was amazing, because you get to see both Thor fighting and Loki fighting on the same side. and I just love that. Climax is Loki getting kind of killed, saving Thor but getting killed himself. And again, I was rather upset by that because I'm like, you're kind of redeeming yourself. I want you to, I know you necessarily can't because there's a bit of something wrong with you, but I just loved him and Thor being on the same side again, and again I was like, no! And yeah, Thor's reaction, I'm like, such horrible things keep happening to Thor that I'm surprised that he still is carrying. But then, obviously, Loki is not so dead, and I have no idea what he's done with Odin, but I'm quite intrigued. In some ways I'm kind of happy for him that he's king, because that's all he's wanted, and he gets what he wanted, Thor gets what he wants, and it's all fine. When there was the shot of Thor talking to Odin at the end, he was just lounging in a throne. In my mind I was like, that's not right, that reminds me of Loki and how he acts. What do you know? Shapeshifter turns back into Loki. So I don't know what happens to Odin, but that's interesting. Yeah, in some ways I'm kind of happy for him that he has a throne, but at the same time I'm like, what have you done to Odin to get it? Yeah, so that'd be interesting, whatever happens from there. Another thing I loved is the humans. Jane, Darcy, Eric and Darcy's intern. They saved the day. They are the ones that use science to create portholes, like help out Thor, and Eric is the one that saves Jane and Thor in the end with one of the portholes. And I just love the fact that the puny humans are the ones that are helping save the day, and like Eric saved Thor's life. And I just like that. I like the fact that it doesn't forget that humans are just as clever and as strong, but in different ways to Asgardians or other creatures. So much about Thor the Dark World I really love, and I really want to see it again. Let me know what you think of Thor the Dark World down below if you've seen it. I know it's not quite out yet in America. All for spoilers if you do mention any spoiler stuff, and I will see you next time.